yards.
Wait, Brew, don't do
He
that.
couldn't care less about these other teams.
I have been anti-tush push from well before
you
the
knew
Super Bowl.
what was coming.
No, we stopped it against the Bills.
Yeah,
I thought we could
this
stop
ain't
it
the
against
Bills,
them.
baby.
This is a 2-year take for me.
Meanwhile, Joe Burrow headed to Baltimore again, and he's not thrilled.
I like Burrow.
But does he actually have a point when it comes to the Bengals' schedule?
No, he doesn't.
A little bit.
And I'm from Cincinnati.
And finally, Brew makes his Eastern Conference prediction alongside a special conference finals version of Tears, alongside Chris Broussard and Kevin Wildes. And he surprises on the Tears. Only 4, but maybe there's a surprise.
The committee, we had the meeting after game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. The committee, not happy with one of the participants yesterday. And it'll show up in the titles. You know Marshall has a very sharp pen with the title names. And it showed up.
He is quite the words.
Exactly right.
But we're starting with Thunder. Oh, we're going to get Susie.
Yeah, exactly.
Just said. This game went from close at the half to a blowout as OKC outscored the Wolves 70-40 in the second half. SGA had 31, 11 coming from the free throw line. More on that in a second. Here he is after the game.
Honestly, I felt like we were a bit rusty, which we shouldn't be. We were missing layups, free throws. We just needed to keep being aggressive, trust our work. We got downhill. The layups starting to fall. We started making shots. We started getting stops defensively. And we were out and running and playing our basketball.
Brew, here's the second half numbers last
That's not good.
OKC had 70. They shot 62%. They didn't shoot a ton of threes, but they went 8 for 13, 22 rebounds. Meanwhile, the Wolves just really wanted to jack it up from 3, 5 for 23, and shot 35% overall. So, what was your number one takeaway from the Thunder's performance?
Well, first, let me say this. As the elder statesman on the show, Nick just let me know I'm a baby boomer. I didn't even know.
You didn't know.
He's the
youngest.
The tail end of the baby boomers.
He's the youngest baby of the baby boomers. You're right in the middle of Gen X, and I'm the oldest of the millennials. So we're a 3-generational show. I am. I'm born in 84. Millennials started in 83. Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
He's up to the
But Brew's a boomer. How about that?
I'm shocked that I'm a boomer. But anyway, I have sounded the alarm on their youth.
Yeah.
But when you look at this field, I mean, all the teams, this is a different year.
There's not a veteran team.
Right. Like, the Knicks would be the veteran team, but their second best player is new, right?
Yeah.
He's just there for the first year, Karl Anthony Towns. Brunson isn't old. He's a vet,
McHale's new.
Yeah. So they're a new team. Indiana is only their second year in the playoffs, and their best player is 25 years old, Halliburton. And then Minnesota, been to the playoffs 4 years, but their best player is 23, and their second best player, Randall, is new. So it's not going to really hurt them in this Final Four, so to speak. They look great. I mean, obviously the sluggish start, but once they got going, man, that defense was great. And the key was, as I said yesterday, would be the turnovers. Mm-hmm. If Minnesota could avoid turning the ball over, they'd be in good shape. They didn't. They had 19 turnovers. Even in the first half when they were leading, they still had a lot of turnovers. And the difference was they had 19, OKC had 15. But the difference was OKC turned those into points. I think it was 31 points off of turnovers. Minnesota did not turn their turnovers. 15 turnovers they forced or had, and only 10 points from them. So that was a big difference. And look, for Minnesota, they took 51 threes out of like 85 shots, 83 shots, 51 were threes. But most of them were open. So if you're a Timberwolves fan, you got to be thinking, like you were with the Celtics, these are open shots that they will hit, and they just missed a ton of them. They do have to find a way to get into the paint.
Yes. They also were taking some of those shots because the Thunder defense was so good.
Yes.
It's just easier. Right. They walled it off. And, it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker with a bunch of the open ones.
I saw a little too much of him.
Right. Well,
I know McDaniels was in foul trouble.
But I'm saying the guys for Minnesota that were taking the shots are kind of the guys the Thunder wanted to take the shots. So that's credit to them. So listen, I'd love to give just cogent analysis like Brew did.
Yeah.
But that's not the biggest for me, and I think for America, the biggest takeaway of yesterday. The biggest takeaway of yesterday is the fact that these playoffs, the one through line of these playoffs is physicality.
Yep.
We are going to let Alex Caruso guard Nikola Jokic like he owes him money, and nobody's going to care. We are going to reward teams that try to play defense, and no team takes better advantage of that and deserves more credit for executing that properly than Oklahoma City, who just sends waves of defenders at you, generates these runs, can go from they're trailing by 4 midway through the third to the game's over. And it's not the way we're used to in the last 10 years of basketball when if that happens, it's because a team made 8 of 11 threes. Right. No, it's because they are getting stops. That Dort is putting his body into you. Caruso, J-Dub, all of it. And I love it, and they're the best in the league at it. And you do have to start to say, hey, where does this team rank historically, not all time, but the last 20 years, of the best defenses we've seen?
Yeah, in the last 20 years.
Post Chauncey's Pistons, how does this team stack up as the best defenses? But when the moment they get the ball and Shai is treated like a kid out there on scholarship, and it's like, oh, be nice to him. And Shai, there is one thing to be adept at knowing Jimmy Butler style. You've got your hands in the wrong place, or I can get you off the ground.
A real move.
A real move.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we saw from the opening whistle last night, which was Shai simply saying, I'm going to essentially awkwardly but intentionally fall to the ground and then throw up a shot and be rewarded by it. And I'm going to take it a step further that I haven't heard people make the point, but I think it's the right point. When in the opening minutes of the game, he gets 5 free throw attempts and Jaden gets in foul trouble, it is not then a coincidence that later in the game, he's walking into open 17-footers, which are layups for him because you feel like, sweet Jesus, I better give him room. And he
totally set the tone.
Right, it set the tone. And Coach Mangini always says, do business as business is being done. And if you are Minnesota, you're saying there's a new store manager depending on who has the ball. How do I know how to do business? When these guys are allowed to play great defense, and again, I'm not asking for more foul calls on Oklahoma City. I wasn't against Denver either. But it is in a playoffs that everyone has been officiated by kind of a tough-nosed, old-school physicality. For a guy who doesn't need it and shouldn't need it to be consistently rewarded for just falling is, to me, off-putting.
Yeah, look, early in that game, and a lead early doesn't really mean as much in today's NBA, but still, early in the game when Minnesota was draining threes and getting a big lead, the only thing keeping OKC in it was the fact that they were getting to the foul line. Shai had 7 free throw attempts in the first quarter.
Yes.
It gets, like you said, Gobert picked up 2 quick ones. McDaniels picked up 2 quick ones, who's their best defender. They're 2 best defenders. And that just set a tone. And they bottled Shai up. He didn't shoot a good percentage.
2 for 13 to start the game.
And so the foul line did keep them in it. And I'll talk a little bit later about this with how Minnesota should handle it. But they didn't complain, after the game, and that's kind of.
Can I show you? Let me get your reaction to this video, though.
From ones I saw.
This is after SGA draws a foul. He's laying here lounging, and I think Ant took offense to the foul drawn and a little bit of SGA's.
This is why.
I don't even think that's that big of a deal. Like I saw somebody say he hurled it at him.
No.
I mean.
No, but to me.
That's frustration because it wasn't really a foul.
And it's SGA. It is someone who is. This is what I meant yesterday, and I correctly, classic one, instantly correct, got killed for the take because I knew I would. When I said I'm not rooting for this team, I don't enjoy watching it. It is the almost basking in the glow of referee manipulation. And in doing it, like, what are you guys going to do? Can't touch me. And can I add real quick two other, listen, Harden was awful about this, and it hurt him in the playoffs. It was different. He wasn't falling as much as trying to grab your arm.
His was more blatant, I felt.
I agree. Yeah. But it also didn't feel quite the same because he was never on this super tough defensive team that was then mugging guys on the other end. Here's the other thing that I will say that I think is totally fair. If at the beginning of game 2 it is officiated like this, if I am Naz Reid, if I am Rudy Gobert, if I am the Minnesota Timberwolves, okay, we're going to get our money's worth then. A hard playoff foul, not dirty, not undercutting. Hard, like if you're going to get to the line without us touching you, then we might as well make you at least feel it a bit. And I think that's the only recourse if the refs don't adjust, in my opinion.
Meanwhile, Anthony Edwards only took 13 shots, only made 5, as Minnesota failed to crack 90 points for the third time this playoffs. Here's Anthony Edwards after the game.
They clog the paint. That's what they do. They don't got much size down there, so they bank on us not making shots, I guess, because every time I go to the rim, it's like 4 people in the paint. So, yeah, I guess they just be clogging the paint. They put like 4 bodies in the paint, make you kick it out. I definitely got a shoot more. I only took 13 shots.
Okay, true. Ant in game 1 of his last 4 playoff games, he's 1-3. He's only scoring 20.5 points a game. He's got no games over 25, and he's shooting about 38%. So were you surprised by Ant's performance?
To the point of the graphic, no. Disappointed, yes. Surprised, honestly, no. This is kind of what he does. And I'm